Hello, team, and welcome back to another Line Warcast. This is your map today. Just a big island in the north. Our two teams in blue. Someone said that my nickname sucks. And in red, Romad Quantum Scientist. This is on the beta branch of Line War right now for the upcoming patch. I'm not sure when this video releases, what the status of the beta will be, and whether it'll be released. You can check out the Line War Discord for more information. But let's get into it. So, someone said that my nickname sucks is going to spawn in the bottom here, going for an immediate town, two immediate towns, in fact, and then two barracks follow up. Romad a little bit to the north, going for two barracks and an airport. The understanding is that bombers have got a little bit of a buff. Infantry, a little bit of a buff in some sense. They fight better in forests. You can see that in this tooltip now, we actually can see that infantry and commando firepower bonus of 20% and their armor bonus of 20%. And tanks move more slowly through forests and mountains than they did before this. Not sure if this is exactly how the beta is going to ship, but there are a lot of changes, a lot of quality of life improvements that have gone into this patch. Very exciting. Nickname's going for a dock as a follow-up, likely to cap a lot of the gas in the water territory in the south of the map, or along this side as well. Nickname's view will be this, so it's not like Nickname knows that Romad is to the north as of yet, but this dock will be able to deny Romad from building these trade routes if that's what Red decides to do. Romad's got two more barracks on the way and has also built this northern town. There's actually a trade route in the north as well. This will be a little bit more safe and easy to defend for Romad, who is going for bombers out of this airport immediately. Nickname's got a barracks to the left, close to this town. And on the left side of the map, there's a mountain range, and there are two gases on this side. Probably look for both players to contest this mountain range. It might be very important in the way that the map will end up getting split here. And it's all infantry out of all the barracks so far for both players. And very soon contact will be made at this forest, at the edge of the forest, and then around to the east side here. First factory for Nickname as Romad's first bomber finishes. And blue is making a destroyer. And we'll have to see if blue decides to just begin capping with this destroyer or immediately send it up the right-hand side to scout. Either is a very distinct possibility. Fifth barracks now for Romad. So red will have a lot more infantry than blue can possibly produce with this 5 barracks against 3 for blue. But Nickname will be the first to have factory tech in this game. Likely going to be a little bit of an economic lead for blue at the moment. 490 income for blue and 415 for red, which is expected because of the second town that blue built. And at this point, Romad and Nickname will see that where each one spawned, or rather like the general location. It's alternating bombers and interceptors out of this airport for Romad. The beta has a new improved zoom. Love this. There's actually a free camera that you can also use in the game. I just need to learn how to use it, I guess. And there's first contact. Nickname is building an airport, that's what we hear. Not really sure exactly where it is at the moment. Yeah, right here. Right under the camera, and I don't even see it. So airport in the mountains for Nickname. We'll see if that is going to be interceptors or bombers, potentially. One of the shifts that we've seen is generally strikers aren't what folks open up with. Strikers or helicopters. It seems to be a little bit of a bomber-interceptor meta in the beta at the moment. And the interesting thing about RTSs is that who knows if that'll be how the meta continues to evolve, or if folks find spots to use strikers and helicopters. Very exciting. Nickname's got an infantry advantage on the right-hand side, so we'll likely be able to just continue pushing up this coastline. And a cool thing about how the different geography and the maps work now is that Red will have a little bit of a bonus if they stay in this forest because of that firepower bonus that we can see on the tooltip. And Blue will have to back up. Interceptor for Red gonna get a good scout. We can see Romad's vision. Interceptors, this is one of the best roles they can be used for. The artillery piece is taking a shot at the interceptor. It's not all that effective, but it does look hilarious. And Red has been able to defend Blue's push into the forest. With this bonus on the infantry in forests, it'll make it so that a little bit more strategy has to be involved when you decide to push into your opponent's forest, or your mountain range for that matter, which is an interesting dynamic. More interceptors on the way. The bombers for Romad are going out at this point, and a second airport for Nickname, who is building interceptors out of this first airport that is finished. Romad going for a dock now to protect this gas in the north. And at the moment, the bombers are just starting to spread damage over these blue infantry to soften them up a little bit. Romad is going to have a very strong push with all of this infantry off of this 5 barracks. And because of the barracks advantage for Red, Romad's been able to get to the left a little bit quicker and might be able to get into the mountains first, which could become important. Romad has reinforced this eastern flank here. And there's only 2 barracks for Nickname, so of course it'll be tough for them to reestablish the control over here if they were to lose this. The first artillery piece for Blue is on its way. 2 destroyers now done for Blue, with a 3rd on the way. And it's a very safe gas for Romad. The bombers for this airport might be able to hit this gas. The bombers, of course, have the greatest range. This is Nickname's... Yeah, this is the range of the airport for Blue. Can't quite hit the gas there. Although if a bomber was here, it probably would proc to the gas and be able to hit it. And still just some infantry skirmishes. Nickname is starting to dig in this mountain range in anticipation for this is approaching Red infantry. And Nickname has built the defensive lines kind of at the back of this mountain range. It's kind of cute that there's a tree here. I've never seen that before. And one of the things, I think Blue builds this defensive line at the back of the mountain range so that when Red's infantry move through the mountains, because of this land unit speed penalty in this uncontrolled territory, it gives more time for these artillery pieces and infantry to fire on them, as opposed to building the defensive line right up against the edge of the mountain, and then there's no nerf for the infantry as they approach this defensive line. Good scout from Nickname, who sees this dig in, so can probably assume that there is a town here, although it isn't spotted as of yet because it is in the forest. And forests and mountains give that stealth bonus for buildings. The interceptor now has scouted these 2 airports. The bombers will start attacking. Bombers got a buff here in that they fly as quick as interceptors now when they're cruising, before they are dropping their payload. And still a defensive build-up for Nickname, which allows Romad to take control of this forest. Interceptors are in the air in a little bit of a dogfight. With 2 bombers, they aren't going to be able to destroy any building, but they are going to be able to soften these up for the next pass. And potentially soften them up so that these infantry can destroy it. Nickname is digging in at the moment, but it's going to be a little bit too late. These infantry aren't going to be able to get the sandbags down before the Red infantry is on top of them. Airstrip now for Nickname, probably in a defensive move in case these airports were to get sniped by these bombers. Any planes in the air could just land at that airstrip instead of being destroyed. If planes don't have a place to land, because an airport was destroyed when they're in the air, they will just explode. A little bit of a fierce firefight on top of these 3 barracks. For Nickname, it's still just 5 barracks for Romad, who has this roaming group of infantry and continuing to go for boats for Nickname, who is capping all of the ocean territory and getting this second gas. This is the first gas for Nickname. This first airport will go down. These infantry will be able to destroy it. There's no way that this blue infantry is going to be able to destroy enough of these red units before this airport is destroyed. How many infantry shooting guns at asphalt and tarmac does it take to destroy it? And that's the answer. And I think at this point, Nickname will be looking to try to save this second airport. Maybe we'll be able to, but this is a lot of infantry for red on top of it. And Romad goes for the first factory of their game so far. Romad has control over the left-hand side. There's another barracks in these mountains. Blue will lose this airport, which kind of puts this town at risk a little bit. Thankfully for Nickname, it's a good play to build this airstrip. Good anticipation so that now these interceptors, they don't explode. They'll be able to go to this airstrip and land instead of just exploding in air. And we can check the economies real quick. 780 income for blue and 715 for red. And it'll be interesting to see how Nickname uses this army of infantry on the left-hand side and whether Nickname can get a good fight against this kind of spread out infantry groups from red and get a foothold in these mountains. Because as discussed, the mountains are such a great defensive structure. Like a geographic location to mount a defense. 3 barracks here are going to continue pumping infantry that might be able to deal with this infantry from red. The 2 bombers are going to help out and likely get at least this first barracks. There's some strikers part of this for Romad. And now it'll be a question of whether the interceptors for Nickname can respond quick enough to the strikers and the bombers from red to not lose as many buildings. That striker does go down. The beta has new animations for when planes are shot down. It looks absolutely fantastic. Big artillery push from Nickname at this point. And Romad has taken control of the right-hand side of the map. It has 2 cruisers already built, a 3rd one on the way. Artillery is such a fantastic unit to use against infantry, and Romad has enough infantry here to kind of body block. So this will be a little bit of concern for Romad. If these artillery pieces were able to get into the forest, they could very quickly turn the momentum of the game, at least in the center forest. There's 5 interceptors that Nickname has been able to keep alive, so they will be able to defend this ground army from these planes. It's just 2 bombers and a striker. At this point, the interceptor does like negligible damage to ground units. Really, their role is anti-air. Great defensive line from Nickname here to kind of counteract how many red units, these infantry pieces. And we look for red to start building SAMs, and that's exactly what's happening. There's only 1 interceptor left for red. Romad puts down another factory, likely to build some more SAMs. And then build artillery pieces to counter how much artillery blue has. 3 barracks now in the top left for Romad. So over time, red should be able to start pushing back against that infantry. And Nickname has some SAMs on the way as well. Nickname is deciding not to go into this forest with these artillery pieces. It's probably a wise decision. And you can just see the defensive line. I mean, this is a great position for blue. Romad knows that Romad is going to back up. 2 industry on the way for Nickname, who feels safe enough to build this. And of course, we've seen that Nickname has rebuilt one of the airports, continuing to build ships out of this bottom dock. Because there is going to be a naval engagement at some point here. The cruisers will definitely be able to take on this many blue destroyers. Cruisers being the best pound for pound boat to have when they're fighting Navy units. And fight in the mountains. I don't suspect that Nickname is going to be able to destroy a building here. There's some commandos on the way for Romad. And 2 barracks and a factory on the left-hand side. This factory is building tanks for blue. An economy check, Nickname at nearly 1,000. Romad at 875. Planes for Red are heading to the west to help out with this defense. We can see that Nickname's vision. They can't see the barracks quite yet. There's 3 infantry left, and that's definitely not enough to have that detection. But with how many units are over here, I think Nickname probably suspects that there is at least something in the mountain for Romad. Blue putting down this port to get some more economy and even more industry on the way. The first tank for Blue is now finished. And if we go top-down view, which is new to the beta, to the upcoming release, you can kind of see how many territories each player has and where they're kind of located. Three cruisers for Nickname, or for Romad, pardon me, they're out of gas. That's what that black plume of smoke is. So when the boats are out of gas like that, when any unit is out of gas and they show that black plume of smoke, when they are attacked, they take increased damage for the next 5 seconds. Which is important and allows Nickname, more importantly, to just cruise by these boats and might be able to snipe a gas. Romad definitely needs to be looking to get a second gas at this point based on how many planes and cruisers are out. And there it is. Second gas for Red. 2 airports are pretty much full at this point, so the airports will stop producing planes, which is probably okay for Red at this point. Because of this gas problem, there's quite a buildup of infantry in the top left for this impending counter push from Romad. Port is finished, so that gives Blue some more money. It's all interceptors out of this airport and a second dock for Blue. This is a big moment. Because when Blue destroys this refinery, I think that's what's going to happen because none of these boats can move. We can actually look at Romad's gas. There is some, but there's still just these planes flying makes it so these cruisers can't really move. When this refinery is destroyed, these planes are going to have to go home because there's going to be no gas for Red. And this will allow these blue boats to destroy this dock, probably. Romad's going to have to hope this cruiser finishes and pops out, but I don't think it's going to in time. One of the changes in the balance and in the game is that all units, like when they're attacking, if they're a gas unit, they require energy. It will use energy when they are attacking. This is big for like tanks, for example. Before, when tanks were fighting and they were stationary, they weren't using any energy. That is no longer the case. They will, the units will continue to fire even if they're out of energy, but it will continue to take energy to fire. I mean, I hope that made sense. It's a relatively big change in how this will work. So these 4 destroyers do destroy the dock. They might be able to get out. This forces Romad to build a second gas here. And these tanks, if they do get into the mountains, they're going to move much more slowly. And I think this is just enough infantry and commandos for Red to be able to take on these tanks. Here's an enormous push from Romad kind of down the center to try to split these 2 production centers for Blue. It'll be into a mountain range on this side. So what I assume is about to happen is that this group of infantry is really just here to body block and buy time for this left push from red to try to destroy this town, which will open up a way to get to these two industries and destroy more of blue's economy. Nickname is going for this town on the left. Eco-wise, blue likely has the advantage, and this is a big play from Nickname, who's going to try to keep Romad on this, like, no gas situation. 1,000 income for red at this point, 1,200 for blue. I think this destroyer isn't quite hitting that town, but it probably sees it at this point. As mentioned, there's no way that this fight for red is going to go well, but it might buy enough time for these units on the left to take out a building. If Romad can find a way to get the energy security, there is a lot of bombers here. And strikers for that matter. The SAM count is starting to build for Romad. SAMs are a great counter to interceptors, which will sort of negate blue's advantage with this interceptor count. But this is a big moment. Romad's gas, we can hear that beep beep, meaning that it is definitely low. Here come the interceptors for Nickname in the north to try to pick off some of these bombers before they get home. This army for red has done its job, which is to stop this huge artillery army from being able to defend over here. The infantry for blue in this defensive line, they don't get the bonus if they're being attacked from behind. So Nickname does disband this. And here's another big fight on this left-hand side of the map. 5 tanks are going to be in play here, and Nickname does have the gas because of all this water gas. These 2 in the bottom, which red really can't hit at all. Town is nearly destroyed. Nickname sees this and is going to take it out with 1 destroyer potentially. 2 barracks in the top left. Or 3 barracks, pardon me, for Nickname, and that'll be trouble for Romad, who puts down a factory close to this gas, which to me indicates that Romad will likely want to take this gas as the 3rd gas. Romad has 2 airports and an airstrip, all full of planes. And great play from Romad to see this and destroy that destroyer before it's able to destroy the town. So let's check the economy. Nickname has tons of money, making 1,200. 1065 for red. So blue definitely with the eco advantage at the moment. I think what happens in the left is going to be what determines how the game goes in the kind of next stage of it. Because this is a lot of barracks for Nickname to have. And it'll be interesting to see how Romad decides to deal with this. Nickname is using their eco on 2 airports and another barracks in the bottom left, a 2nd factory in this mountain range for Romad. And now there's 3 cruisers, 2 missile boats, and 2 destroyers for blue here to field these 3 cruisers for red. There's 2 more on the way, but there's no dock for red at the moment. So this will be tough if Romad loses all these cruisers, which I don't think expected to see this huge army, or this huge navy, pardon me, here. Very scary push from Nickname out of the center to going right towards Romad's production. The cruisers are trying to get around these boats. They're not going to be able to. Romad's gas and energy, pardon me, still very low. Blue has more. Great pickup by this 1 infantry to destroy that industry. And another town on the left-hand side for Nickname, who is very slowly winning this fight in the top left. This is Nickname's vision. So that 1 commando for red is still going because these 2 infantry weren't enough to spot it. Now they do, and they destroy it. And here comes this 3rd gas for Romad in the middle of this field. We might be able to see some tanks for blue just drive up to this thing. This is where tanks really are super effective, when they're just fighting in the field, or rather driving through the field, because they're so slow through the mountains. They do a great job of destroying one of the factories right as the first artillery piece for red shows up. This many bombers will be able to destroy that small army, but it remains to be seen how red is going to deal with these barracks on the left-hand side. And Romad doesn't know about this town. We can see that they just spotted this with how many bombers there were. But the far left one still isn't spotted. None of the boats for red got by. So Nickname still has total control of the sea there. And now blue's starting to push up the right-hand side of the map, which puts this town in the north at danger. Two SAMs for Romad are moving up. This forest is actually a very interesting spot if these SAMs get inside of it. SAMs do very decent against the interceptors. So if these SAMs can provide the cover for these bombers to just run free, that'd be a big win for red. Like even this, with the SAMs close to all these infantry, they do get one of the interceptors. Likely won't get two. Unfortunately for Romad, those two SAMs are destroyed, or will be destroyed. And this is a huge push at this point. It's a very big grouping of artillery for Nickname. In previous iterations of balance in Line War, the artillery blob was a very fearsome thing. It's still feared. Not quite in the same way, but it does have the snowball potential. 4 SAMs for Nickname. 3 now. Doing their best to at least buy time for all these artillery pieces to get some good shots off. I think over time, red is going to be able to defend. The strikers showing their effectiveness at destroying SAMs. And what a fight. It's now about 9 SAMs for red, so these interceptors aren't going to be here for much longer. And based on the losses, I think blue's interceptors did relatively decent there. And there's a lot going on in this game. Props to both players for keeping up this high intensity. Infantry for red might be able to destroy that town. Clearly, blue is going to try to get a trade route up here. I think that would definitely be the play. One more barracks and a second factory in the mountains for Romad. Nickname now sees this refinery. It's just 2 bombers so far. There's a third one on this airport that is close to the town that's destroyed for blue. And there are no interceptors for red. So these SAMs will have to do a good job of defending this kind of central push from blue, but then also these 2 refineries. Nickname is going to send a bunch of infantry, probably to just try to destroy these refineries as quick as they can. Because we saw earlier in the game how effective it was when blue was able to handicap the energy for Romad. And if you can keep your opponent on low energy, it's always good for you. And you'll always be able to find situations where you can then use that to your advantage. Another factory for Romad. Economy-wise, 1045 for red, still 1210 for blue, so it's been relatively unchanged for the last few minutes. And I think this is still an extremely close game. Here comes this tank through the open field onto the refinery. It might be able to destroy it. Hopefully for red, some of these planes start to go over there just naturally, and they do. But the question is whether it happens in time. That tank will be able to take quite a few shots, and it destroys refineries pretty quickly. Here come the blue interceptors. And a push from red onto this airport. I don't think this infantry is going to be able to destroy this in time. And it will probably cost this entire grouping of red units. The push in the north west for blue is starting to begin in earnest through that mountain range. That'll be a big problem for Romad. The good thing is that once this blue infantry kind of gets here, maybe some of these artillery pieces will be able to shell the blue infantry. As discussed earlier, these infantry are going to move very slowly through those red-occupied mountain territories. And this hero tank might actually destroy another refinery, which would be a huge game changer in the pace for what red can be doing. Okay, for a second I thought maybe Roman had subs out there to destroy those refineries, but Nickname still has those 2 refineries. It's just that blue is getting more gas units, more energy units. These boats will certainly be able to destroy the town, which will be a big blow to red. And the refinery is saved, and that is a big deal. There's no SAMs here for blue. So these planes might be able to start attacking this. There's one missile boat for blue here, which kind of exposes this main production center. If Romad's able to kind of, you know, figure this out and send all the planes blindly there, it would be a sort of weird play because there's no way that Romad has that scouting information. It's not like Romad has any reason to do that. It would just be a very fortunate move if red was to do that. And at the same time, Romad's probably going to have to commit the planes to the left-hand side because this is very scary. And I think losing these 4 barracks and 2 factories would just be an unacceptable situation for Romad in this game. Nickname drops back to this mountain range to dig in with this artillery, which is pretty frustrating, I think, for red, because now this push on the ground won't do anything, or it will be very, very costly. And we can see Romad's vision. Still don't see this town as of yet. There is a commando here. These commandos have great spotting. But you kind of get an idea for how close they need to be and how many units there needs to be here in order for the building in the forest to be scouted. Here come the bombers and the strikers. Expect Blue's interceptor to show up any time now, as that town is seen now by Romad. And the interceptors are going to have a good time against these planes because there are no SAMs here for red. And the nearest SAMs are off to the right, defending this refinery. Nickname's interceptors are hasted. That's why you see that trail on their wings and how quickly they are moving. So they're using more gas, but they are getting on their targets quicker. This is a great push from blue. It's very close. These 2 artillery pieces are going to have to do their best with some help from the air to be able to destroy this infantry before they destroy these factories. And here comes probably a second try of a push from Romad down to this bottom, I don't know, central location. There's 2 SAMs, which is probably enough to deal with these interceptors from blue. And now the question is, how much does red lose in this mountain range? And if the answer is nothing, that's a huge, huge win, I think, for red. Definitely this first factory is going to go down. These bombers are going to hit it after they destroy that SAM. Or, of course, in the opposite order. So very precarious position for red in the top left. Love this push from Romad. This could start to even things out a little bit. 3rd SAMs show up here to defend and give cover to these bombers. One of which is lost. And of course these bombers are going a little bit too deep for these SAMs to be able to cover them. But there goes an interceptor down. If the blue interceptors stay around these SAMs, certainly at least the 2nd interceptor is going to be destroyed. And there it is. Bombers destroy one of the barracks. The artillery pieces are now starting to open up on the defended infantry. And keeping a little bit of an eye on the top left. Romad's still holding on. The SAMs are getting in more in position. The SAMs can't shoot their machine guns. You see the firecracker sound of these red SAM units. That's actually what does the most of their DPS. The SAMs won't be able to do that against the bombers, so they're not as effective. But there's a good grouping of them, so maybe they'll have some good success. And yeah, I mean, the planes for blue are pretty much non-existent down here at this point because of these SAMs. One missile boat for blue in the water. Going at it. Might be able to get another plane. Great snipe from red on that airport. Nickname is moving out of these defensive lines. Potentially in preparation for another push towards this forest. And Romad still has 3 barracks on the top, but the money is getting dire for red at 860, Nickname at 1540, and building more industry and has the port on the left-hand side. This is now a big problem for red. And Nickname puts down more economy. Feeling very confident that losing all of this is fine. That over time they'll be able to defend these things, or that it doesn't matter if red were to destroy all of this. Rather, that's how I would read blue going for economy in this situation instead of producing structures. And at this point, blue stopped producing out of this dock, which makes a lot of sense. There's no threat from any red navy. And when these SAMs move out of this mountain range, this tank could do a lot of damage to the SAMs. Second tank here. It's unfortunate because Romad has to move these SAMs out of the mountain range to be able to deal with these bombers. But that does open them up to be destroyed by the tanks or just the ground army of blue. 2 barracks in the top left will be destroyed by Nickname relatively soon, who puts down another town in the top left of the map. And if we go top-down view, very slowly we see an encirclement of Romad. If Romad could destroy all of this and destroy this town before this trade route comes up, while also holding this push, I think it would still look pretty tough because of how much infantry that Nickname has in the top left. Yeah, Nickname puts down some more factories, and with the money that Nickname has, Nickname can kind of just pay for this win at this point, continue to build factories, and this will be a very strong push in the top left. This army for Romad did very well in the bottom, but that is GG. Well played from both players. Fast-paced. And I think that's a great showcase of what this upcoming balance patch is going to be like. Looking at some graphs, income diverges at the end, but otherwise, very well played. Folks, I hope you enjoyed it. Again, check out the Discord if you'd like to learn more about the state of the patch and where that's at. Check out Twitch if you'd like. I stream on there, twitch.tv/SodaQuackers, same name as YouTube. Hope you have a wonderful night, evening, day, morning, breakfast, whatever it is for you. We'll see you around. Peace.